You're listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Welcome to Toast to the Town on a wonderful Wednesday. Across the table from me is my wonderful, lovely, and talented co-host,
Hello.
Christy Leggett.
Hello.
And this is Melanie.
It is a beautiful sort of Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's kind of cruddy.
Yeah, it
kind of
is.
cruddy. You know, I got up this morning, took the kids to school, got back, did my 2-mile walk, you know. But when I went outside to go walk, I was like, why does it feel so much colder at 55 degrees than it has, you know, here lately in the 40s? And I guess it's just because of this nasty humidity that's just kind of lingering around.
Exactly. Let's go ahead and introduce our guest host with us today. She joins us occasionally, but she doesn't ever get introduced until halfway through the show.
It's because we just start talking. We get excited.
I know. Holly Arbuckle.
Hello, how are you?
I'm groovy. Glad to be here.
Wonderful to see you.
Thank you.
On this historic day.
Historic. And it's an historic day.
And
Yes, it is.
historic day.
Yes. And, you know, lots to talk about, obviously, and lots to discuss. And, you know, it's been a month already. It's been an interesting 20 days.
It's been 3 months in the past 20 days.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, there, you know, we have so much to talk about. You know, whenever we were on last week, we kind of touched on a few subjects, but we didn't dive in, you know, but I think we can dive in today with Miss Holly, because I'm sure that she has some wonderful things to share. As she
Wonderful
looks at me quizzically. As she looks at me quizzically. For those of you that don't know, today is Inauguration Day, and if you don't know, I don't know how you don't know, unless you just kind of don't have this day marked on your calendar, and you've already.
If you've been watching nothing but The Bachelor and listening
Bridgerton.
to
If you've been watching Bridgerton.
yeah, and The Bachelor. And,
Can we talk Bridgerton?
No, not in public.
and
Amen.
and you've been listening to satellite radio, you would not know.
Or if you know, and if you're taking
You
a
don't-
sabbatical from social media, which we've heard a lot of people doing,
Right.
and you know, I've limited.
Is that what this
myself-
dry January is? Is that social
It's about the driest January I'm going to have at this particular point. But yeah, it's you know, it is an interesting day. So Inauguration Day, we officially have our 46th president of the United States, President Joe Biden, and Vice President Kamala Harris. You know, did y'all watch the inauguration ceremonies today?
Did. Done.
With all the flags?
Done.
Did they say there were 200,000 flags?
Something like that.
So I can only imagine, and I want to see the balance sheet for this of what the cost for this inauguration ceremony was between the fence and the flags and everything else.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing is, you know, if you put a per capita cost on it of all those that attended, you know, I think if they'd sold tickets, they should have been about $3,000 or maybe $18,000 a piece. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. But, you know, unprecedented times. But I watched President Trump's farewell speech this morning. I thought he did a great job.
I thought he did.
I love that he gave his wife the microphone for a bit. Showed her his respect for her. She's always, you know, the pinnacle of grace and elegance. Just real, and her even
hair today.
And I know, and even with the way that she delivers. Okay, so I took.
Wait a minute. Long gloves. Oh. I would have never, ever said, oh, yeah, that's what you should wear when you leave. Holy cow, she looked graceful.
She looked amazing.
Anyway,
Yeah, she looked amazing.
Yes.
But, you know, after I took 2 years of Spanish in high school, and I took 4 semesters of Spanish at A&M, and I know how hard it is to talk, to try to have to put the effort into speaking Spanish, even back then whenever it was fresh in my brain. How she does it, she speaks, 6 languages?
5.
7 languages?
5.
And to be able to get up, present herself so elegantly, so in such a sophisticated manner, so well spoken, and do it with such grace and not an error. And then you have somebody that speaks English all the time, can't get it right at the time.
Right.
But it really was. I
don't bring Biden up yet.
I know, but I thought it was. I thought it was a really great moment.
It was.
And I thought that they handled themselves well. I mean, he, you know, kind of jabbed a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
Hopefully they won't raise your taxes, but if they do, I told you so.
Yeah. Well, I have which might surprise you, a little different take.
Okay.
I try every 4 years to watch the inauguration as an American.
Yes.
Even though I'm such a Republican.
Right.
I cry every time. It's Obama, it doesn't matter, Clinton, I cry. I love it. And the reason that I cry is because the people that are there and what this means to the citizens who have, and I just remember during Obama's, he wasn't my choice.
Right.
He represented stuff I don't believe in.
Right.
But the people that were there for that, just the feeling that they had, I love that. And I felt the same way today. This is not the way I wanted it to be. I'm furious about so many things, but especially after what happened last week, what we all did the next night was cook dinner for our kids, get up the next morning and go to work, go to school, do what we had to do, and it didn't matter because we're America and we're Americans, and that's what we do.
Right.
We take care of business, and that's what we did today as a country. We took care of business, and that's what we have to do.
Well, and
Agreed.
We've had this conversation before, all three of us, about how we still believe in that statesman mentality of elected officials.
Absolutely.
And so this. Some people look at it as pomp and circumstance, and it is, but it's the tradition, it's the event itself, it's what it means, it's what Americans for centuries have endured to make this happen and make this possible.
It's like singing hymns in church. It's
Yes.
the emotion that you need to love your country. Is
Yes.
that feeling of everybody together saying the Pledge of Allegiance, a million flags. They walk up the stairs, all the things that they do. That's what gives us that connection, that touchstone that we all need when things are tough.
Yeah.
When our country is in the middle of the worst pain we've ever experienced.
Right.
And yet today is like, for the most part, every 4 years always is.
Yeah.
I hate the fences. I hate those tanks. I can't tell you how I felt about all of that, but it still went on because that's what we do.
Well, and this is, I was, with everything that's been going on and all the craziness, and you've got the impeachment going on, and you've got, Trump's noticeable absence from the inaugural ceremony today. Vice President Pence, God bless him. What an amazing American, wonderful statesman, showed up. And I know, I can only imagine the emotions that he was feeling.
Absolutely.
But, in light of this new impeachment, we all knew that before last week's events that Trump was not going to attend the inauguration. But in light of the new impeachment, is it a little bit more appropriate that he wasn't there today?
I don't. There's two ways you can look at it. You can look at the just pure. Can I say assholery of it? Of not. I did. I'm sorry. I can't. He just nodded. Anyway, just the pure not being a nice guy of saying I'm not coming to the inauguration.
Right.
Or you can look at it like Trump sucks up the air in every room. It doesn't matter. He always has and he always will.
True. Right.
Had he been there, because even up till last night at midnight, all 3-4 channels that I switched through every night were talking about Trump.
Yep.
Instead of talking about Biden.
That's true. Very
And
good point.
Maybe him not coming today was the gracious thing.
Right.
Maybe him not coming today was him finally saying, okay,
It's
I'm
yours.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah, because had he been there, every nuance, every eyebrow lift.
You're right.
Because I have watched those eyebrow lifts every year, and
Yes.
it's part of my fun.
Yep.
Of everybody else's,
Right.
So I'm going to decide that he did the grown-up thing to not go.
And I think that's a wonderful perspective. And
That's really how I took it when
Yeah.
he announced he wasn't going. I really did take it with, well, okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, not because I didn't want him to be there, because it didn't
But
need to
because
be
it
a
would
melee.
change it.
Yeah.
Well, one of my favorite classes, and I've talked about this before, when I was at A&M, was a political rhetoric class. Dr. Dorsey, one of the
Do I need
best
to start
professors
talking
I
about
had.
the fact that I went to University of Texas or not? Because you've mentioned A&M 3 times today.
Well, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Slide that in when I can. But and what we did in that entire course was we picked apart political speeches, just their verbiage. Then we picked them apart by listening to them and then watching them, and what every nuance, what every eyebrow raise, what every hand gesture, how it all combined together to deliver the total message, right? And so, every political speech, but especially every inauguration speech, it's one of those things where I just can't help but hone in on it.
Right,
because,
sure.
And all these different things, like you said. So when Biden was delivering his speech, and we'll touch on this because we're not to him yet. But, what I thought was kind of funny and interesting was, it was all about unity, all about unity. We got to come together. We got to come together. We got to come together. But he still polarized the Trump supporters a bit, and I think with both of these men who have worked very hard to get to this level of success where they have in their lives, I like to think that Trump did the gracious thing and stepped aside. I don't think that that's how the Biden camp will probably
take it. Right.
Take it.
Well, I don't know that that's how they'll characterize it. I understood that's how they took it because I understood that Biden said when he wasn't coming, said good. I mean, he just said that was the only thing he said. I mean, that was behind the scenes, and who knows. So while you're talking about Biden delivering his speech, so clearly as a political speech, and I know we're probably not there yet, but I'm going to interrupt you while I remember.
I was looking at time.
Clearly as a political speech, just as you said a while ago, just a political speech, thinking about Trump's speech, thinking about Bush's speech, thinking about Reagan's speech, and I know those are all completely different.
Yeah.
But did you take away any? I tried to listen to open ears and open heart. I wanted to feel good about it, okay? Did either of you think that it had any substance like Trump's had, or like
there was definitely no outlining of any policies or anything that's going to happen, or the reversal of all these executive decisions he's going to be signing into order today that are going to reverse a lot of Trump things. There was a definite absence of this is what we're going to do with immigration. This is what we're going to do with the coronavirus.
Well, that's not the time for that. I mean,
yeah, but usually they at least throw a few things from their agenda.
Yeah,
into
from
the
their agenda.
speech.
That's right. Yeah.
But I didn't hear any of that.
Okay, and I guess, and that's true, and that would have helped, but there was nothing that said other than we're all Americans, and that was it. And I mean, he just kept saying unity Americans, and he didn't give any. I didn't think anything quotable. I can't tell you one area that he dove off into where I went, oh, okay.
Something that'll stand the test of time.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Okay.
No, I think that was definitely missing too. Now, it was a beautifully written speech. I mean, there was some.
No, it was.
It was. I mean, rhetorically, it was. It was flowery and beautiful, and used some great verbiage. But again, and I think a lot of it too is not just as Republicans, but I think as Americans, I think we're all a little bit skeptical of anything that's going to come out of somebody's mouth right now because. I think a lot of us are disenfranchised with the media in so many different ways. And a lot of us are disenfranchised with elected leadership right now because for the same reasons. What's true? What isn't? Okay. Right. You said you're going to unite us. Are you really? Mm-hmm. Are you going? I mean, one of the things that he said was, I'm going to be the president for all the people. Now, I don't think we've ever had a president that said, I'm only going to be the president for some of the people.
Right.
But even though, I think we're all waiting for the proof in the pudding.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
But anyway, so here we are. And so, we get into the inauguration. We touched on this just a minute ago. Okay. So, first performance that comes out is Lady Gaga. Gorgeous this red skirt was just to die for. I mean, I don't have a place to wear it. I could sit in my living room couch and wear it, and that'd be fine. But she comes out with this dove, huge gold dove, on her blouse. And at first, when she came out, I thought it was like the Mockingjay from Hunger Games, and I was like, this is sending a very interesting message. And I know I can't have been the only person,
right,
yeah,
that had that thought.
Oh, exactly.
But of course she comes out and she delivered, and I mean, she delivered.
Yeah.
She's a talented lady.
She's a talented lady. And there's something about her that seems very personal. She seemed very gracious and very humbled to be there.
Right. And I have gotten that impression of her more lately.
Yeah.
As I age and she ages, we seem to get along better.
And then, Jennifer Lopez comes out. And I just want her hair extensions. I mean, beautiful, so talented. Again, she's saying flawlessly. They both did great performances. I was a little offended when they called her J-Lo when she walked off the stage because I felt like it should have been a more formal ceremony than that. But it was good. And then, then they bring in Garth Brooks. And Garth Brooks, who has taken a lot of heat about accepting the invitation to sing at the inauguration, he comes out, sings Amazing Grace, tries to get everybody to sing along in traditional Garth Brooks style. And then he
Did he cry?
I wasn't watching closely enough.
Okay.
But I bet he did.
Yeah.
There was at least
did.
one little
He
tear.
did.
Because if anybody can theatrically cry in
Yes.
a perfect moment, it's
It's
Garth
him.
Brooks.
Right.
And, so he puts his cowboy hat back on, and backs out graciously. But in true, Southern style, he turns around to walk off and then he just starts hugging everybody. And it was so funny.
I love the way you change the way you talk. Hey,
I know,
everybody.
you can't. But it's funny because, you go from Kamala Harris taking her vice presidential oath and knuckle bumping people, even though they have gloves on, knuckle bumping, which, and as a woman, I was a little bit offended because if there was ever a moment for a woman to firmly shake a man's hand,
Right.
it's after taking the vice presidential
Exactly.
oath of office.
Exactly. There's only one more important time than that.
Yeah. And so
Hopefully she won't.
So
I mean,
she's
sorry.
fist bumping, and then you got Garth Brooks, no mask on.
Yeah.
He didn't even walk out with a mask. The only one that I saw that didn't have one
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, you're
and he
right.
just starts hugging the Clintons and hugging Bush, and he's happy, he's all glowing. And it was just so funny because I think it's such a stark contrast of kind of the big divisions that are in our country right now is,
Absolutely.
one kind of way of thinking and the other. So anyway, what are your thoughts?
Well, first, J-Lo didn't wear a mask out, did she? She didn't.
Oh, no, she didn't. Yeah,
She
you're right.
didn't.
She did not.
Anyway, well, there were a couple of things. I am embarrassed that I did not know more about Kamala Harris because that's how much I disliked her when she announced she was running for president. That, she was just an
Tuned her
X
out.
and it wasn't, she's just too far left and I'm just not interested.
Right.
I had no idea. Is her husband, did I miss it? Is he white or is he multiracial?
I believe he's white.
I believe he is. It just kind of surprised me because I've heard her say so many ugly things about white males. Not you, honey. Anyway, okay, that was the first thought I had. And that was exactly the thought I had. Ouch. And then the other thing was, how would you have liked to have been Hunter Biden today?
I don't think I want to be Hunter Biden any
Period.
day.
Right, exactly. I just, I kept thinking the whole time, I bet he's thinking, God, I got to get out of here. Oh, geez, I got to get in. Dad, I got to run.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Okay, those are just the real impromptu thoughts that went through my head. Sorry. Very, very unpolitical.
Holly, share your thoughts.
Well, as a true entrepreneur, I was working during the inauguration, so I did not get to see it. I've been watching I have a TV in my office, and so I was watching it this morning, but I had a meeting and so I
Right.
didn't get to see the main thing. I saw them all walk again and all that stuff, which is when I commented on the purple dress, which I loved. But I have not gotten to watch it yet. So,
Right.
But I will.
Oh, Jill Biden's dress.
Jill.
Jill.
Oh, I thought you said Joe.
Not Jill. Exactly.
And by Jill, you mean Dr. Jill Biden?
Dr. Jill
Yeah,
Biden.
that's what I
I'm
thought
sorry.
you meant. Mhm.
Dr. First Lady Jill Biden. Anyway, it was the exact same color as the carpet, which was an off blue. Usually the carpet's a navy blue. It was kind of an off blue,
Yeah,
and
it's
her
kind of
dress was
Carolina
the
blue.
exact same color. And then I thought, well, what's her name? Melania. I can't even remember her name. Melania's dress was a really light blue like that. Anyway, and I thought, well, Melania did a little better. But I thought Jill's was very attractive.
Yeah, I did too.
Okay.
I did too.
So
Yeah, I
that's
thought she
all
was
my
fine.
non-political thoughts that went on for the day. The rest of it was I'm just disappointed in the speech.
Yeah, I think it could have been better. But, then again, we knew that they were going to be coming in as, the whole message for the last week has been unity, 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 unity.
Right. You're correct.
So I wasn't really surprised with that. I mean, obviously, I think we were all very, very pleased that there was no violence that was witnessed either at the nation's capital or any of the state capitals. Because my understanding is they shut down every state capital in the country.
Oh, did they shut down everyone? I didn't know that, but I knew they shut down a bunch.
Yeah, but the presence of the National Guard troops,
I can't stand it. I just can't stand it.
Was just kind of
jarring.
Jarring.
Did anybody hear where the 12 were from?
The 12.
The 12 guardsmen?
Well, I'm sure they're all Southern. I didn't hear where they're from, but
I didn't either.
They haven't let out the reasons that they were asked not to.
But
take place.
Abbott, right before that happened, right before they announced that, Abbott came out and said, "If I'd have known they were going to do this, I'd have never sent them from Texas. This is ridiculous. You defamed them. You spit in their face. You blah blah blah." Anyway, I just wondered if they had said, and I just missed it.
Yeah, no, I hadn't heard anything about it yet. So I'm sure that'll be coming out.
Tried to be careful not to.
Yeah, probably
tell who they are and what happened.
Yeah,
and what the reasons were.
So, so that's our inauguration coverage for today.
Yes.
What I do want to go to, though, I think we should take a little bit of a break because we didn't really get to talk about the events of last week. I think that's something that we need to talk about. Obviously, bringing in, the conversation that we're having today, and talk about, not only the facts and the different perspectives and the different, rhetoric, the different stories, the different accounts that are coming through, but also what it means for us as a country and what it means for us going forward.
Right. And I have an interesting piece of news.
Oh.
Really great news that we'll talk about by the end of the show.
Ooh, a little tantalizing tidbit.
I know.
Oh, how exciting is that? Yes. So if you are going to lunch, make sure you are taking your phone or other electronic device along with you so that you can watch us live on Facebook. You can also tune us into 104.5 or 106.1 on the FM dial if you're here in Conroe, or tune into irlonestar.com. Listen to us live, but make sure you come back for Mel's tantalizing tidbit.
Yes.
This is Toast of the Town with
really
Christy and Mel. We'll be right back.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dance Time in Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
Are you interested in learning more about preparing quick, healthy, and safe meals for your family? Would you like to spend time with others learning tips and tricks, along with practicing and tasting nutritious food? If so, the On the Road to Healthy Living Mobile Cooking School is for you. Call Amy Ressler at Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service at 936-539-7825 to find a class near you or volunteer to host a class.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show. With monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
Welcome back, everybody, to Toast of the Town with Chrissy and Mel. I am sitting here with two wonderful friends and also very talented people, Christy Leggett and Holly Arbuckle. And we are pretty well giving everybody the once over in Washington. We're giving them our opinion about what they're doing and what they've done this morning. But let's step back a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's go back a couple weeks.
In time.
Let's go back. Everybody, hold on.
To a less glamorous time. Okay, first of all, though, one thing we didn't do before we went to break. So here's to the great American tradition.
Here it is.
Here's to the peaceful transfer of power.
Absolutely.
And for living in an amazing country that allows us to do so.
Absolutely.
So cheers
Toast.
to that.
Cheers.
You know, it's
That was a pretty one. Ding.
And it is a day of change, day of anew.
It is.
And so in honor of that, I did something new this morning
What did you do?
that I have not done in quite some time, and I shaved my legs. So I just want everybody to
She has a
celebrate
date.
that.
She has a date this weekend.
No, I wore a dress. This is the first day because we were talking about it. Temperatures warming up, but it felt cool because of the humidity, and I decided to wear a dress today. So I figured it would probably behoove everybody.
We all appreciate.
We
you
do
shaving
appreciate
your
I
legs.
know. I know.
I wish I didn't know, but now that I do, I appreciate it.
Some things just really need a fresh,
And then others
start.
don't.
And then others don't. So here's
to Chrissy's legs. Cheers.
and the fact that I realized how badly in need of a tan I am. So
Yep.
when everything dies down and this COVID stuff is under control, I'm going to be way ready to go find some sunshine somewhere.
Yeah.
One of my friends, who y'all all know, is so white that one of her friends used to put on sunglasses every time she came down the stairs. And she's probably listening to it.
And she will not be mentioned by name. Yeah. So anyway, so if y'all see a glow, it's
So
probably
if y'all
from
see
my
Darren
legs
coming
today.
down the street, you'll know.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I was going to make that connection, but I decided not to. Anyway,
Okay.
so go right ahead. Mel's tantalizing tidbit.
Oh no, we're waiting until the end of the show.
Oh, okay. Never mind. So we're going back in time.
Yeah.
We're going back in time to 2 weeks ago today. One of the most significant crises, I think, in American history, especially since 9/11. And that would be this the storming of the Capitol. And I think we have to, I think it's respectful to choose our words carefully because depending on whose account you're taking from, because there are a lot of people, there's some people that call it riots, some people that call it protest. Obviously, it was an interesting combination of all of the above.
I think.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So, there have been a lot of perspectives that have come out on who is actually responsible for the damage that was done. So you've got, obviously the largest story is that they were far right-wing extremists that stormed. Then you have these claims of Antifa and BLM and everything that were involved in that. And then, of course, there are all these stories that have come across on social media about, all of these plants that came in. And this one guy with the horns that has been great for the meme world.
He's just a. I just want to know how long he sat around to think all that up. Is really what I want to know. Or is he running out the door going, "Yeah, that looks good"?
I know. I could never be that guy because I never have my act together that well. But what was your take? What are your first thoughts? And what have your thoughts? Have they changed since that happened?
Mine have.
Okay.
When it first started, I thought it was just a shoving match. Really, I really did. And then I guess when the shots were fired, well, it got real.
Right.
And it wasn't even over before I had changed, and I've changed even more as we've gone along. Mm-hmm. I'm very disappointed in. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your commitment to either party is. Obviously, we're talking about the right now, but I think that if you let me back up. My dad always told me in growing up, he said, if you don't go places where bad things happen, bad things will less likely happen to you.
Right.
In other words,
Nothing good happens after midnight.
Right. And married men don't hang out in bars and all of those things, no, were you going there for that? No, but somebody made a pass at you and now everybody's holding you responsible for it, that kind of thing. So if you were going to this event, why did you go up the stairs? Why did you go inside? Bad things can happen when you break barriers, when you break rules, when you break past the cops. I get that you're mad. I get that you're unhappy. Bad things happen.
Right.
And so the girl from California, who was obviously quite a human being, mm-hmm. She was obviously wonderful, now she's dead as a result of it. So that's really where I've ended up, is that you just can't do those things. You've got to follow the rules. And the right is notoriously a group of rule followers. So what were we doing? So that leads me to believe that maybe they weren't the right. They were just some sort of renegades who believe in the right.
Right. Holly, what's your take?
Extremely emotional. It was a very emotional thing for me, which I don't basically have emotions. But the visuals of that boy hanging from in there like a monkey on the, and the guy with his feet up on the desk. I can't get it out of my head. It made me sick to my core. I also wanted to believe all the Antifa BLM stuff, but I don't think that was true. I think these were right-wing nut jobs gone crazy. And that's just all there is to it. I mean, there's not any other way to describe them. They're nuts, and they're not going to be, there just isn't any excuse for what they did to our country, to what they say they love. You don't hurt what the BLM protesters that tore down the statues. I hated that. I thought it was awful. But they tore down statues of people they hate and disrespect. These people desecrated the very place that they are fighting for, which is just stupid.
Right.
I mean, it's like, it's friendly fire on your Capitol. You don't do that,
Right.
So I was very disappointed in that. Since that time, I've tried to be very careful about what sources, sourcing everything I read and see. And it's very, very difficult to do. But I do think that I think there was some complicity amongst the Capitol Police that allowed the things to happen. I don't know why. I cannot, for the life of me, imagine it. I'm not saying I wish more people had been shot, but I did see some undoctored video of them literally with cops almost escorting them around. And
the cops were taking pictures with it.
Absolutely,
they were taking selfies.
that's right. And
they were letting them in,
anybody that's known me politically very well knows there's nothing I hate worse than a bad cop. I mean, it just makes me crazy. And I am going to say something controversial, which is that I am quite furious at Donald Trump about this. I think to those whom much is given, much is expected. And did he break down that barrier? No. But his words were the ones that got those people fired up to do it. And when you have that kind of power, you have to be careful with it.
Oh, absolutely.
And he wasn't. And
do you think he no, wait, let me restate that. Do you think he knows that, though?
Knows what?
Do you think he knows he made a mistake when he was standing up there talking to
Yes.
him? I do, too.
I do, too. But let me tell you one more little quick thing.
Okay.
The day of the impeachment, one of my friends has a son who's in 7th grade. And on the way home, he asked her, what does that mean? And she called me and said, I don't know. Would you tell him? And he said, what are they accusing the president of doing? And I said, they accusing him of inciting people to do bad. And that he didn't do the bad thing, but he incited them, and that's a legal word, and it means by your power, you got someone to do something. In the same way that if you hire somebody to kill somebody, you're a criminal too, even though you didn't shoot the gun. And that's what Trump did, and in my opinion. And all of the wonderful things that I think about him, all of the wonderful things that I think he did, I'm mad at him, and I don't like what he did. And the thing too, I think in politics, it's gotten to where we're so 100% there, so you can't. Well, that's a bunch of crap. It's just like with your kids. I love the dog crap out of Nick. Doesn't mean I don't get stinking mad at him sometimes.
Sure.
So it doesn't mean I don't support Trump or his beliefs or most of his policies. But what he did those couple of days, in my opinion, were awful.
Okay, so let me ask.
Are you going to ask Dick his opinion? Because he's got one.
I will. Yeah, go ahead, Dick. Go ahead and chime in because I want to ask a question to
everybody.
Well, I always think of what did he exactly say that incited it?
Let's go down there and tell him how we feel. That's what he said. March down there with me.
Okay.
But and that's kind of what I was going to.
I feel like that happens all the time, though, when someone goes to the Capitol when they protest. That's where people go to protest, right? Like, is this the first protest that went to the steps of the Capitol?
No,
but that's not where it was. That's not where it was supposed to be.
Well, but this is, and kind of chiming in on that because the big question that I wanted to ask is, do you think his responsibility is justification for the impeachment?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Then that's why I was
Absolutely
asking.
not.
Because he did not direct and say, hey, go break through the doors and let's take over the Capitol.
If it seemed like I meant that, then absolutely not. I think that impeachment is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever seen in my entire life.
I think that's what gets me. So go ahead, Dick. What else do you have to share?
No, I was just asking because to me that felt like that's what people kind of normally do when they go protest. They all kind of walk to that place and they protest.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
So when you're telling people, "Hey, go over there and march," I mean, that to me, that's like the same every other
It's
protest.
just no difference.
So
Well,
I didn't
one of the
feel
things-
he said anything that says, "Hey, I want you to break down those barriers and go try to hang Mike Pence."
Well, that's the other
So-
thing. I agree with you, and he didn't say that. But that's one of the things I told, all of the time while Obama was in office and Jay Johnson and all of those guys were doing all the stuff that they did. And someone said to me, well, you don't think Obama told them to do that? And I'm like, you don't have to tell them. They know. They know you. They know. I mean, we've all worked in politics long enough. You don't have to say things out loud.
Right.
You have your minions that do what you want them to do because they know what you want them to do. And so that's my opinion. That's how a lot of that was, is that I don't like the word dog whistles because I think it's stupid, but I do think that they thought they were doing what their leader wanted them to do.
Well,
but I also think that this was a percent of the people that were there.
Absolutely.
And that's what I was mad about during the day and the day after. Where was the media person who walked 50 people out into the crowd and found the lady that looked like all of us and said, what are you doing here today and how do you feel?
Right.
She didn't do that.
Yep.
Where was, my brother was this close to going. No one interviewed him about his feelings. He wouldn't have stormed the Capitol.
Well,
so there were
and-
thousands and thousands and
Absolutely.
thousands of people there who feel just like we do, which is I want to redress my government for the things that I feel have
wrong.
been
Right.
are wrong, and I have the right and the obligation to do that.
Well, and I will tell you that I personally knew people that were there that,
Right.
that felt like they were
Had to
moved
do something. Mm-hmm.
and had to go to show their support for our president. And their accounts of what happened are vastly different. Of course,
Absolutely.
they weren't the ones that were storming the steps. They
Right.
weren't jumping barrier lines. They weren't pushing the cops back. And I
They
think
were experiencing something wonderful with like-minded
exactly.
people.
And I think, whenever we start talking about these officers that were taking pictures, I think just like the majority of the people that were there, they never saw that coming, that level
I agree.
of revolt and anger coming. And so I think they thought it was kind of another day at the office, if you will. Now, could there have been some that were influenced? Absolutely. I have, I'm a realist. I understand that. And everything that happened was such a tragedy that it ever escalated to that point. I do believe, like you, it was a very small percentage of that population that actually got out of hand and decided we're going to do something with force today.
Well, and I'd like to add something here. I don't think, and this is my opinion, I don't think that everybody that broke into the Capitol being the appropriate term of the day, I don't think they were all bad guys. The girl from California, she wasn't a bad guy. She was just, look, the doors, they're open. Well, we can go in. I don't think they were bad people, a number of them. There were some bad actors. There were.
Well, of course.
And
They are.
and I just don't think that everybody that went through the doors was a bad actor.
Well,
I really don't.
agree too. And then there's
But
that.
there's that. Well, don't go where bad things can happen.
Well,
if you
but there's a
break in
group,
through a door.
that group mentality. If
gets-
you've ever been to any kind of rally
Oh,
and
yeah.
you go there and you're excited
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's something
Oh, yeah.
you're passionate about,
Absolutely.
and then it hypes you up, and then your adrenaline starts pumping, and then before you know it, the door's open. Going through.
right.
And I think it's kind of that herd mentality of people
Sure.
that maybe they got swept away
I
in the
agree.
moment. Not that that's an excuse. I'm not excusing it, but I think that had something to do with it too, because I do agree. I don't think everybody that was there was bad. I don't think everybody came with bad intentions. I don't think most of those people thought that they could break into the Capitol. I don't think most people thought if they broke into the Capitol that it would actually get into the chambers in some of the offices. I mean, because I never would think that would be possible.
I know.
And I think that they show videos of some of these folks that were in line and being allowed to come in.
Yeah.
But then again, we get back to the credibility of the news sources and who we're believing and who we aren't.
Right. And I'd be in the back of the crowd going, pass the Ritz crackers, please.
Yeah.
It's a completely, because it was a huge crowd. It was
Right.
a completely different atmosphere is the point I was trying to make. And I had 2 friends that were there, and they said, it's crazy. I don't know who got in there because every third person was either had a cane or was on a scooter.
Yeah.
They were all our age, Mel.
Yeah.
Is what they said to me. So, just
Well,
the way it is.
and then how that trend in this moment of sadness, of grief, of wonder of what it meant, to translate that into impeachment proceedings. And with the purpose behind it, as has been claimed, is to prevent Donald Trump from ever being able to run for office again. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah.
I think it starts with the fact that it's unconstitutional because and it's going to get thrown out in 1 second if a lawyer stands up and says,
Right.
you can't impeach
There is
someone
no
that's not a
evidence.
president. So there's nothing. Well, not even that.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
There's no standing for this.
You can't
procedure.
impeach the unimpeachable.
You can't impeach. Yeah, that's exactly right. But secondly, and part of this is how much I believe in the ballot box. Anything that limits what I can do at the ballot box, including term limits, which
Yes.
is not a very conservative thing, but I'm against.
Yes.
And anything you do that if we are not man enough to stop him from running for president again, then we deserve it.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel. You don't make rules precluding someone from running for office. That is the voters' decision and the voters' decision only.
Well, to me, it's part of this new movement of socialism that they're trying to, gradually envelop us
Right.
all in, so we
Their
don't know
rules.
what's
Right.
happening.
Right.
But you start limiting who we can elect to represent us because
Right.
they are our representation. And once you start putting limits on that, then you have the government in control of who is
Exactly.
being in those positions.
And
I think that's wrong.
that is an excellent point, Christy. I had not considered that.
Yeah.
The socialist aspect of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But when you add that into, and this has been another hot topic of mine, and I think it kind of goes together. Whenever Facebook and Twitter decided to completely do away with the president's First Amendment rights. Now, some people will say it was warranted to maybe let things cool off or whatever. But then you had leadership saying, well, they're privately owned businesses. They have the right to decide who and when they do business. But wasn't it just a couple of years ago when they were telling the bakeries that even though their religious thoughts and beliefs were different than those that their clients were, that they were still obligated to serve them and do
Correct.
business with
That
them?
is correct.
So how can you can't play both sides of that?
Well, those are two completely different. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's conflating two things. That was someone's.
But if they're saying the businesses have the right
The
to
businesses.
decide how they conduct their business,
Right, but they don't have the right. But a business doesn't have the right to discriminate based on the color of your skin or those 5 things, whatever. And that's constitutional. This is they have the right to.
It's freedom of speech.
Well, yeah, but you don't. A business can't give you freedom of speech.
I disagree.
Well,
Then they can't give you. Then they can't give you the right to. A business can't give you the right to produce work for you, if you're whatever. If you're what is it? What were they? They were lesbians. Is that what it was?
the cake.
Yeah.
The cake. They were lesbians.
Well, to give you a good counter, I don't know if Christy was touching on this. Is Twitter or Trump during his presidency couldn't block people. That's what the federal court said. Like he can't block people on Twitter. So to me, that's kind of conflicting a little bit with we can.
We can block you, but you can't block us.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that-
the whole
agree.
thing is
So-
just that technology has surpassed our ability to control it, which it always happens. There's a seesaw in business
Right.
and anything like that. And I
Well,
hate it. I hate what they did, but I think they have the right to do it, and I think that they did it at their peril. I think it will end up hurting them.
well,
But-
I agree, and what they did with Parler.
Ugh,
Because
unforgivable.
then again, you're taking a business and you are removing their rights. Now, Amazon being the holder or being the server that hosted them they technically had the right, I guess, to turn off their servers because they get to choose who they do business with. But I still believe that they are discriminating based on a belief system, because you could say that, we look at Trump, we know he's a Christian.
You could say it's creed.
You absolutely could.
It's I'm just thinking this now. That's their creed.
Yeah.
And you can't, if you want to say your race, your sex, your
religion,
orientation,
but
or your
say,
creed. That's one of the things.
Yes, absolutely it is.
You may be. I haven't thought of that.
So I think that obviously, this is politics we're talking about.
Absolutely.
And both sides use rhetoric for their own behalf, okay? Everybody twists words every now and then.
Yeah, they do it better than we do.
Yeah, they do. They do it
much better than we do.
Much better than we do. But, taking this reverse stance, and it has, and I will say the same thing to me relates with the vaccinations, the COVID vaccinations. And we're going to touch on that in a second. But you hear this story, this tale of them saying that vaccinations are going to be mandatory to travel, to be able to do certain things, to be able to enter government properties, that you're going to have to show proof of vaccination. Do y'all remember when Governor Rick Perry was in office and he tried to mandate that all teenage girls had to be vaccinated with the HPV vaccine, and the uproar? And he was a conservative governor, Republican elected governor. He came out with that, and you would have
killed him. It nearly ended his career.
Absolutely. And here we are a few short years later, and we have the other side saying, oh, no, we're going to mandate. And not only mandate it, but you're going to have to show your card to come into property that you as a taxpayer, as a citizen, own. How are they so easily juggling all these balls in the air and playing both sides of the fence and nobody's calling them out on it?
Yeah, we obviously all have different opinions about the level of how high or how far any of this goes. But I will say one thing: the anti-vaxxer crowd is a significant group. I mean, when they talk
to COVID or
no previous to COVID. Okay,
sure.
The anti-vaxxer parent. Okay, every child who has been diagnosed as somewhere on the spectrum of the autism spectrum has a question mark, at least a question mark.
Absolutely.
Was it vaccinations? It's a significant thing. When they go to Austin to make any sort of decisions, they include, now how are the anti-vaxxers going to take this, okay? So there's already a significant group. I don't know how they're going to convince people as a whole, a mass, that this is what they need to do. I'm not even an anti-vaxxer, and I really don't want the vaccine. I'll make sure my kid gets it, but I really don't want it.
Well, and I have, my kids have had their vaccinations growing up, of course with us, it was kind of like starting kindergarten at 5. It's what you did.
Yeah,
you got your kids vaccinated.
Exactly.
Now, obviously, there have been a lot of really great things that have happened.
Sure.
I think with COVID, I think the anti-vaxxers have evolved a little bit because nobody really trusts where this virus is or the quickness of which the vaccine has evolved. Normally look at what we have to do just to get a medication approved. It's 8 years in clinical trials.
But that's one of the things that if there was any justice in the world, Trump would get the credit for having stripped away all of the crap that really doesn't need to, and we'll be able to keep some of the legacy of Trump of all
the
of
regulations, the crazy regulations.
Yeah, the regulations, but also just the way they all talk to each other and how it's 100% with me or 100% against me. Will any of those legacy points remain?
I don't know.
But my favorite thing about the vaccine nowadays is when it's 2 doses, and so the science was you have to save the second dose so that you can dose everybody else
because otherwise it's no good.
And as soon as it was clear that Biden was going to be the president and he wants to do all the doses, all of a sudden now Dr. Fauci and everybody's like, oh yeah, let's do all the doses and then we'll come back with the second dose because we know.
More.
Yeah,
but
they're saying that they said over and over and over, we are following the science. You have to hold them, blah blah blah, and now it's like, No, we don't
Free
do
for
that. Yeah, we're going to do it different there because that's what Biden wants to do. I hate that.
Well, and it's
And
like,
I don't even care one way or the other if you hold half of them back.
well, and
But
you look
it's
at
just-
communities like Harris County, and they, had their vaccination station, and we have the one in Montgomery County that opened up today, and they're already, going and blowing.
7 minutes.
But they had, they had all of these people sign up in advance to have appointments to show up. Then all these people show up to NRG or Minute Maid or wherever it was, and there were people that had appointments that were there for 3.5 hours after their allotted appointment time. They were there prior to their appointment, 3.5 hours of their appointment time.
Why get
and
an
then
appointment if-
still did not get a vaccination. And they were saying that people were not checking for appointments. They were not checking to make sure that they were part of a population that should be
Just- they were
priority of
just
receiving it.
shooting everybody.
Just shooting everybody. And to me, that is a direct slap in the face to all of the science, everything that's been said. We're going to start with these populations because they're the most critical. We're going to do it in this orderly way. We're going to make sure that there are enough vaccinations so that they can get it done twice. And it's like nobody cares anymore.
And one of the things that people like us need to say out loud to the whole country is if you don't like the way this was handled, it's your elected officials that did it.
Absolutely.
Starting at the top,
Yep.
going to your governor,
Yep.
going to your state senator, going to your county judge, going to your mayor.
Yep.
Those are the people who aren't getting it done.
Yes.
Sorry,
And
kids.
and
those are all some of my employers.
Yeah.
But I'm just telling you that, these people in these states and these other places that don't have anything, there's a reason.
Yeah.
It's because somebody didn't do their job.
Yep.
Speaking of which,
Speaking of which,
Speaking
it
of
time to
elected
speak?
officials that have done their
yeah,
jobs.
is it time?
I guess so. This is
Okay.
Melanie's tantalizing tidbit. Is this going to become a weekly thing? I think this should be a weekly
no,
segment.
it should.
Oh,
know.
yeah. Oh, okay. I'll have to really work on this. Actually, it is great, and we need to get ready to toast because it's always so much fun to have him. Next week, we are going to have Judge Mark Keogh as our guest, and he will give us an update, state of the county, et cetera, et cetera. And if you've got questions you'd like asked or whatever, you're certainly welcome to message us at Moxie Innovative on Facebook, and we'll be glad to ask the questions, assuming they're,
Appropriate.
appropriate. Right?
Well, and I think that.
But we're excited.
Like what
He's
you're
a-
saying is if it's like boxers or briefs, you're not going to ask that?
Exactly.
Okay. I'm just
Exactly
checking. I'm just checking. That's how I am.
Although knowing Judge Keogh, he would probably answer that
Yeah,
question.
he would. He would.
Honestly and forthcomingly. But I do, we've been so blessed on so many different levels to have his discernment and going forward as far as
Absolutely.
allowing business to still keep going, allowing small businesses to stay open, doing what he could. From his level of authority to keep
Absolutely.
the economy rolling, to keep life moving up here in Montgomery County, which is why we've seen so many people moving this direction.
And just like you said, just the vaccination station yesterday.
Yeah.
I need to do a schoolhouse rock.
I
for
know.
that.
I was just thinking about that.
I mean, he's the one.
Yeah.
He and Jason, of course.
Yeah.
Jason is a super big help. But
But anyway, lots going on. If you have comments, questions, if you want to share your points of view, please message us, post it in the comments section because we value those opinions. We do value the First Amendment here.
we do.
Yes.
We do.
And we'd love to hear your feedback.
We'll read your comment before we block it.
Exactly. But if not, dang it, that's all right.
Okay,
apparently.
I've got one other little tidbit that I
Yes.
want to start adding because there was a number of birthdays this week of people that we know. Today is Kay Carter, Kay Crosskoff Carter, KK Carter. Her birthday is today, as well as Paul Cote. And tomorrow is our friend Gary Henson.
Oh, happy birthday, Gary.
He's going to be 35. He's getting old. Anyway, and our friend Bob Smith's birthday is tomorrow.
Oh, sweet Bob.
Yeah, and all his puppies. And then sweet Shannon Seacrest Lawler. Shannon Seacrest, do you remember? Anyway, her birthday is Sunday, as is Commissioner Ronnie White's up in Walker County. And then our friend, I'm not going to do it to her, but Melanie Turner will be
I would not.
Having a birthday.
We'll be having a birthday.
Right. Anyway, on Monday. So that's our group of birthdays. Do y'all have one that you'd like to add?
Having had a recent significant birthday, I'm going to say that who cares if you got to that age and you're still kicking it?
Oh, yeah.
Be proud of it.
That's me.
I agree.
I'm so
I
there.
agree.
And we talked about, we didn't really touch on events coming up this week. There are some things going on. Obviously, it's still kind of on the down low. But one of the things that I saw that I thought was really cool is that the Delta College Planetarium is going to be doing a live
Isn't that
Facebook
cool?
broadcast of the Northern Lights.
Ooh, when?
Tomorrow.
That is tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Cool.
So, and they've really been promoting it really well on Facebook. But if you go
What
to
is the Delta College?
I don't know. I have
Okay,
not done that
okay.
research.
So
But
it's not Conroe something.
No,
No.
but
Okay.
it's the Delta College Planetarium. It starts at 6 o'clock tomorrow night.
It's up in Saskatchewan.
Yeah,
We're
if
real
you-
close to the
if
Northern
you want
Lights.
to, just kind of take a breath. It's a great reason, if you have no other, to log on to social media, just so we can really revel in God's amazing creation and all the beauty that surrounds us every day, and
Aurora
all the
borealis.
wonderful things that we get to toast. That's one of them.
Yes.
So, thank you, Holly, for joining us again today.
Yes, we
It's
enjoyed it.
Quite a historical day today. Please be sure, pay attention to what's going on. Be safe out there. Make
Yes.
sure you tune in next Wednesday at noon whenever we come back with Toast of the Town with Christy and Mel with our County Judge, Mark Keogh. You can watch us live on Facebook. You can go to irlonestar.com or 104.5 or 106.1 on the FM dial if you're here in Conroe. Until then, make it a great week, and we'll see you next Wednesday.